Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experiences towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Maria Grajdian, and I am a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about how to protect yourself emotionally and mentally in 3 simple steps. As someone who has found herself repeatedly in the situation to show my most vulnerable sides to totally unsuitable people who seemed perfect just a very short while ago, several times throughout the past decades, I know how challenging and even daunting this can be. First, the decision to do something about stopping to expose oneself to your own damage, and then to stick with the decision to actually do something about it. But sometimes we just find ourselves in the wrong life stage with unsuitable people around us who seemed so suitable just a while ago, and it feels like watching a movie which is our own life as if it were someone else's life, for whatever reasons which might have led to that situation and which might have kept us in it. We feel stuck and increasingly resentful towards our own self and experience, as well as research shows that staying there will only make matter worse. By the end of this video, you will have 3 simple steps to implement in starting to protect yourself emotionally and mentally so that you can move forward in life with serenity and dignity. And now, first things first, that is 2 disclaimers, 2 important disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, The School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I am a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I am sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and express the results of my experiences, research, and, for better or for worse, my failures, as well as my recovery from those failures. Recovery which is still continuously ongoing. The ideas expressed in these videos on the channel named The School of Love cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to the channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with the mysterious algorithm, which seems to dominate the galaxy of YouTube, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. And now back to today's real topic, which is how to protect yourself emotionally and mentally from people draining you. If you are anything like me, and identifying oneself with what is called an empath, which is actually people with some sort of trauma history. I don't want to get into that. I'm not ready yet. Some sort of trauma history, and who have developed this ability to connect emotionally, mentally with everyone around them, and to be always on the lookout and so hyper vigilant and on the lookout for potential problems, for potential dangers, for potential people who might be unhappy with us, so that we can predict their actions, their attitudes, and be always on the lookout, always living on the brink of reacting to whatever dangers might lurk around us. And well, people like me, we need very clear protocols to protect ourselves emotionally and mentally, of course physically as well. But nowadays, if you live in a more or less civilized country, you don't really need to protect yourself physically, so from physical aggressiveness, but emotionally and mentally is emotional and mental protection is a very important dimension of living a life, a healthy life. And how so what is emotional and mental protection? Is not about becoming a robot, closing yourself off, and building up walls around you so that nobody can get to you, because this also hinders you going towards others. So it's not about cutting yourself off from the world and so that you protect yourself. This is the wrong approach, I would say. Protecting, so emotional and mental protection refers to this ability to find a way to be open towards the others, while at the same time not becoming vulnerable, or not becoming so vulnerable that people take advantage of you. And sometimes they take so much advantage that you actually there's nothing left out of you. So in my case, so this lack of protection revealed itself in my tendency, even nowadays, to open myself up towards humans which seem normal but actually they are not, or who seem benevolent and actually are malevolent. And so opening up, disclosing things of myself which actually I shouldn't, or at least if I choose to do so, to do it with people I know for a long while and who have proven themselves to have my best interest in mind. And how do you change this pattern? How does one change the pattern of revealing oneself, of becoming vulnerable in front of people who actually will use that information and that vulnerability against oneself at a later point for their own benefit? So the first step, as always, is to become aware of it and to realize that, well, I'm doing this again and again. I'm opening up towards people I hardly know. And well, you'll see the pattern. If they're more or less healthy people, they will just pull back because they are overwhelmed by your willingness to share with them information they don't want to know at that point, and to overshare. But if they're not so healthy people, they will encourage you to open up even more and to reveal even more of yourself, even though you actually do not know them. And developing this awareness is really, after it happens to you that you have been put in wrong situations or in damaging and painful situations more than several times, that you ask yourself, not, well, the world is a bad place, people are just manipulating and using the others. No, that's the wrong, again, that's the wrong approach. But to ask yourself, what is my contribution to what is happening to me? I'm not saying the world is a perfect place and a brave new environment and that everybody's good and benevolent and has your best interest in mind. I'm not saying this. I'm saying, instead of accusing the world, look inside yourself and ask yourself, what is my contribution to what is happening to me? What is my contribution to my own victimization? And once you ask yourself this, you will notice that you'll have some answers, uncomfortable answers, but nevertheless probably the real answers, the real answers you need so that you can move forward to the next stage, which is let go of this need to reveal yourself to others or to help others or to put yourself at the disposition of others, to prove yourself right to others. Just let go of it. Let go and focus on being your best self towards yourself. And once you do this, once you turn the focus towards yourself, you'll see that you will start encountering or even attracting people who are healthier towards you, people who don't want to know so much about you in the first phases. Maybe if the relationship grows closer, more closely, then they will want to know more. It's normal, and they will reveal at the same time more about themselves, but they won't push you to open up when they don't do the same. It's very interesting. These are the two signs that you deal with with potentially complicated people. Usually there are complicated people, is that they push you to open yourself up, but they don't do the same. And if you have a history, as I said, of trauma, of some sort of childhood and adolescence trauma, you will feel very happy to talk about what happened to you. You'll feel so finally someone is listening to me. No, stop and move on to step number 3, which is make the conscious decision to make the conscious decision to learn how to protect yourself. Yeah? Make the conscious decision how you can learn to create these healthy boundaries around you, which will protect you emotionally and mentally, and probably some other dimensions as well, for instance, financially, spiritually, intellectually, professionally, and so on. So make this conscious decision and allow it to go into your subconscious. So what will happen is that your subconscious, in quite quickly, will find the solution towards attaining that level of self-protection, emotional and mental protection. Do not necessarily try to find it with your conscious mind. There are so many ideas like imagine yourself sitting in a bubble in the middle of the forest, imagine yourself riding a unicorn, imagine yourself being a unicorn, and imagine yourself sitting on a cloud and on sky 7, and then seeing the world from above and you're on top of it. I would say, in my opinion, in my experience, this doesn't really help, because these are all conscious constructions, and they're actually very limited, and they do not penetrate to the subconscious because we already have the solutions. In my experience, the best way to deal with this kind of decisions, which are supposed to be implemented in depth, is to make a decision, a conscious decision, like I need to learn to protect myself emotionally and mentally. I am learning how to protect myself emotionally and mentally. I am right here and now, and I'm making this decision to protect myself emotionally and mentally. And after a while, your subconscious mind will create the solution for you. And why is it important to delegate it to your subconscious mind? Is because the subconscious mind is connected to what Carl Jung called the collective subconscious or collective unconscious, which is this huge repository of knowledge, of experience, of information since time immemorial. And our subconscious is connected somehow to this, and I strongly believe in this. So that every time I made this conscious decision to change something and to find something or to heal something, the solution would come later on. I didn't realize when the solution was there. It's just like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. And then once you have the solution, then divide the process towards that solution in 2 phases, 2 parts. And then take each of those 2 parts and divide them into 2 smaller parts, each of them. And then you take each of those smaller parts and divide them into 2 parts, and so on, until you have very small incremental steps in which you can start moving forward towards your goal. So there are 2 main advantages. Probably there are more, but there are 2 main advantages why this protocol works. First of all, it's much easier to move towards a goal if you have incremental steps. And when you divide the big process into increasingly smaller steps, you will notice along the way, in the process of dividing it, whether there, and probably there are, so small contradictions or inconsistencies, and you can solve them already in that phase of planning. The second major advantage is that when you start implementing your plan and moving incrementally towards your goal, you will notice that things will happen, life will happen. You will notice that there will be many distractions and derailments along the way, because we live in the real world, and you cannot avoid them, you cannot control them, you can only deal with them. And this will mean that many times you'll find yourself distracted. You'll find yourself off the track. And you'll find yourself getting involved with complicated situations. But because you have the next bigger goal, which then again is connected to the next bigger goal, not the final, this intermediate goals, regardless of how far you derail from your initial trajectory, you will be able to come back to the initial pathway. This is very important, because if we do not divide first, so if we do not have a plan with incremental steps, these distractions along the way will push us in all directions. And if we do not have the next bigger goal or the next bigger goal, we'll lose track of the initial trajectory. This has helped me in recent months, let's say 10 to 15 months, move steadily towards my current goals without losing contact with the real world, which is important. And we live in a world, and it is important. It's important to keep track of one's development while at the same time living in the real world, living in the here and now. So that would be for today from me. Thank you very much for listening. I'm really happy to share these insights with you, and I'm also hoping, very honestly hoping, that you find some so beneficial information in what I'm sharing. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you very soon again. Love and peace to you all.